just gotta love the Boston music scene, cause it totally kicks butt. Hey there, I'm Katie Darrell, and we are back at Herman's Hideaway. Our night together is just getting started. Are you ready to meet another band that's totally off the charts? Well, Blues Traveler formed back in 1983, and they've been making hits ever since. You remember songs like Run Around, But Anyway, and Carolina Blues? Well, next up, Matt Pinfield sits down with lead singer John Popper and Blues Traveler in the HDNet original series, Sound Off with Matt Pinfield. It's next on HDNet Music Night. I'll be back after the show. Ciao.
Hi, I'm Matt Pinfield. Welcome to Sound Off. Tonight, we have a great American band known as Blues Traveler. I'm really happy to have John and Shannon with us tonight. And guys, thank you so much for coming down. Good to have you here.
Well, thanks for having us.
You know, I've been a fan since your first record. I remember when I first heard But Anyway, and I was like, God, I love this song. It got into my subconscious. It was one of those songs that I just fell in love with, found myself singing. It was a very uplifting track, and the first record, too, which I love.
I think But Anyway was like this, it was one of the first things that we did when Chan and Brendan and I were playing together.
What? Really one of the first?
Wasn't that in the
basement? It was one of our first songs. I was actually just checking my guitar. And
Really?
I started strumming it, and Brendan put on a little beat to it.
Bobby was there, wasn't he?
And Bobby was there. It was kind of, I think it was one of our early,
that was definitely in Brendan's parents' basement. You know, the bands always start out in the drummer's parents' house.
And that was in Princeton, New Jersey, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's amazing. You know, I'm from Jersey, too. I'm from, like, East Brunswick, but, you know, New Brunswick, that area. And
yeah.
So much great music out of that area, and even Princeton. I mean, see all the great bands.
It was funny.
Tell me a bit about you growing up there. What was that like?
It was funny because everybody's always talking, you know, Springsteen's Born in the USA was really huge. So I grew up, like, hating Springsteen. Like, ew, that's all on, that's what's on that MTV crap. You know, I'm about real music, man. And later on, when I'm writing songs, I start realizing, God, he did influence me. And you start to forgive him for that one record. And really what you're mad at is that it was really popular.
Yeah, I think that was
one of the cool things about New Jersey, just in general, that whole area, is it's right smack dab in the middle of the East Coast, and it's between, you know, New York and Philly.
It's that hub, the central part of Jersey.
And everyone there is from a really diverse background, so there's a lot of arts, you know, going up. And
you always want to defy what's popular. You always want to be the new thing.
There's a lot of influences in that area.
Yeah. You know, like we were actually young enough to be angry at Bon Jovi for being a popular Jersey band.
I'm still a little angry at Bon Jovi.
So when you were in high school in the Princeton area, is that where you guys hooked up in high school, basically? Was it?
We did.
Was it? I mean, like you said, you were looking to do something different.
Right.
So you know, obviously you thought Bruce was too popular, and Bon Jovi wasn't where you were at musically either. So what kind of things were you listening to back then?
Hendrix. It was a total 60s renaissance in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of kids in Princeton were into Grateful Dead, Led Zeppelin, Hendrix.
Grateful Dead is
all
really
that. It was a big 60s
that was
thing.
huge.
I also, and John and Brendan as well, were into punk rock and hardcore. That was really big, I think, even when we were a little younger.
Which bands did you love from
that? I was into the Jam, the Clash, all those English.
You're talking about my favorite stuff.
I got into that with a friend of mine in New York, so it wasn't connected to Princeton for me. Like I sort of discovered that.
Did you go to City Gardens in Trenton to see shows?
I went slam dancing to the Meat Men and Black Flag back when I didn't even know that it was. I'm spacing on his name now. Damn it.
Henry Rollins.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was him, and I saw him when he was long ass hair.
Yeah, he had
fronting Black Flag.
And Brendan was in a hardcore band for.
He played there.
DOA.
Yeah, Dead on Arrival. Yeah.
DOA for a while. So
he was in DOA, who did they had their version of Let's Dance, which it was Let's F. You remember that? Like
that was Brendan, our drummer.
They had to face down the Jersey Skids.
When he was like 16.
Yeah.
They were in the parking lot of City Gardens. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But Princeton had, you know, and then these guys were also in the jazz band at school. So
Brendan and I were very affected by the school jazz program because.
Were you a fan of jazz stuff like Miles and Coltrane?
Once you hit Hendrix, for me, once I hit Hendrix, that kind of opened my head up to all music. Like for me, the Blues Brothers led to Muddy Waters, and that led to Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
You know, and so there was like once I hit Hendrix, that's when music really started to matter for me.
Yeah.
And it was enormous. And I discovered Zeppelin that way. I discovered Miles Davis that way. Suddenly, big bands, you know, like music theory was, you know, when you see like Michael Jordan play and like you understand basketball?
Yeah.
Same thing with Hendrix for me in music. Listen, like, oh, I remember
Yeah,
hearing Hendrix when I was 7. I'm like, God, he's on drugs. What's wrong with that guy?
He's a little weird.
Yeah, and it's noisy. And then, like, I guess it just took adolescence and ganja or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that was really, the Grateful Dead, I have to say, for the Princeton scene, that was huge because everyone, it was like in 85, 86, suddenly, boom. That was the cool thing to do in B because, you know, it was pod and it was rock and roll, so it was old, and they were still playing.
Yeah, which was, and it was a community thing too. That was
Yeah,
going
it was a
on
great
with that.
social.
It was
way to
beyond
do it.
anyone's definition of what a band was supposed to be.
Right, absolutely.
And that's something I think that we've figured out how to do accidentally. I don't think we're very classifiable.
Which is cool. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
good thing. Being unclassifiable is actually one of the.
It's a happy accident, I look at
It is. It's a great accident.
I'm trying to be classifiable, I just can't pull it off.
It also means much more when it comes to longevity because bands actually can stay together longer when you're not like lumped into being part of a scene or that
sure.
time, which is cool. I think that
Mike
makes sense.
Barbiero was our producer, one of our producers on 4, and he said, really good band takes you on a journey, like the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
You can like them or hate them, but their first album and their second album were very different. And
Yeah.
there's always that, like, what are they going to do next? The Beatles is my favorite example. And
Absolutely.
I love the Beatles since I was a kid.
So do I. Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
very
Why not?
inherent.
Who doesn't like the Beatles?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
so
They're a
soothing.
jackass. If you don't
Yeah.
like the
I
Beatles.
mean,
really kinda are.
you just can't argue with how great that stuff is.
Yeah,
I think.
it's amazing. How many
And you look at
people
the
don't know.
difference between Beatles, what was called Meet the Beatles in the States, but like Please Please Me all the way up to literally to Abbey Road, and you look at all the different stuff they did, and you're just whoa. I mean, it's just
Dylan
incredible.
affected so many more people, I think, in America consciously. They always talk about Dylan, but for me, the Beatles did what Dylan claims, I don't know if he's claiming, but what his importance to me,
Yeah.
you just put the Beatles in there, and that's kind of me. It's like food. It's very natural, rhyming, lyricism, and I don't know, it's really deep in a way that isn't killing. Like, I had more connection with Springsteen than Dylan because Dylan always was able to be angry. He had that great indicting you, whoever he's talking to, the second person.
Yeah.
Springsteen made you feel a little bit like we're all screwed up.
Yeah. Tell me about your early shows. I mean, you started obviously playing in Princeton, but then, I mean, you played all over.
A lot of pot and illegal kegs.
Well, early on it was like keg parties and the keggers in high school,
Eventually, the cops knew where there was illegal drinking because they could hear the music.
Right, they'd hear that we were playing or they'd hear our music somewhere and they'd
And again,
shut the
Princeton
party
cops
down.
don't have a lot to do either because when I
Chase
was a
kids
DJ,
is all they have to do.
when I was a DJ at PRB, they would give me. I would come and leave my thing on my car on Nassau Street, and I'd go, I gotta go put money in the meter. They'd always be there. The ticket would be there anyway. They were waiting to give me my
do
ticket.
you live in New Jersey still?
No, I live here in the city.
If you ever plan on driving to New Jersey, I'd stop talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I will. Well, we're not gonna air that anyway.
But
We love
cut
the law.
that.
But
We love you all.
the next thing that happened is we were moved up to New York and just played every little shitty bar for $50.
Yeah.
And the great thing was the cabaret law had just been lifted when we moved to New York.
That was awesome.
Out of dumb luck.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, every little shithole, every little bar was putting up a stage, and they allow us to play in
Wetlands
the
was
corner.
a big one for you
it was a
early on,
huge-
right?
That was late.
Yeah,
it was
Wetlands
later,
came
though,
later.
right?
They built in reaction to the scene that was happening. They're like,
What bars were you playing in the early days?
Nightingales was almost. I mean,
Nightingales.
we went to
Smart
Dan
Lounge,
Lynch. We went to Dan
Nightingales.
Lynch because they have that blues jam every Sunday, and
Yeah.
we start off in slow change in this sloppy 7/4, like everyone's volume's on 10, like stop, get out, and just kicked us right out of the blues bar. But luckily next door was Nightingales, and they didn't care what you played.
Yeah.
And so we start getting people down there, but it was this really lucky accident of the cabaret law being lifted at a time when we were going to this music school where, Arnie Lawrence and that whole scene was the best jazz musicians in New York teaching this new jazz program without a curriculum. So it's just like you're in a room, go, what should we do? And we play a lot.
We also could use their studios for rehearsal, which was
Oh yeah, and free amps and stuff.
invaluable when you have absolutely no money
And then your
whatsoever.
parent, yeah,
How great is that when you have no
then you tell your
cash?
parents you're in school, and they were basically funding us. And then at night we'd go out to bars and learn how to work a crowd and sell liquor and play
If by
danceable
5 to
stuff.
6 people, you can call that a crowd. But
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but we had friends.
started
You
out.
obviously built it.
So, well, the thing is, we had friends in school at the time. They were our age, and they were going to college, so we were there for frat parties.
yeah, then we
caterers.
started doing frats up and down the coast.
And
that's how
then we had
started
friends in the schools in New York, and they'd start coming on Monday, which was like the shit night in Nightingales, and they would come, and we'd get these huge audiences on Mondays, and suddenly people start paying attention, and then a scene starts to develop. And so all of this great interaction happens as they repeal this law that suddenly allows every bar in New York to have a band if they want. So there's this huge vacuum.
We play like 6 nights a week,
All this talent
All
and all
right
this
around
vacuum,
downtown.
all these great bands just looking for a place to play because people, and the people we met in whatever open mic night there was were dying to put bands together. There was no work. suddenly there's all this available work, and just bam, it was like a great culmination of chemicals and a lit match.
Yeah, yes, it is. It's
It was
amazing.
really cool.
What kind of covers did you do back then? Because you did some originals, but you obviously
Gloria, you know,
Gloria was one of the.
Yeah.
Louis originally.
Miss You.
By the Stones?
What's
Yeah.
the most
Who was that?
embarrassing cover we've done? Come on, you know.
Everybody
The
did.
way you make me feel.
We did. We
shaka
rocked that.
ooh.
You did Michael Jackson?
We did.
I didn't
rock
actually
that.
say shaka ooh though, but you know.
Yeah.
We did, and mostly some of the same ones we play now.
Watch that Jimi Hendrix documentary.
Come
and I
Together.
learned,
Come
Yeah,
Together was
yeah.
an old one.
I learned Jimmy's version of Like a Rolling Stone.
Which is a good version, though.
Yeah, I
love
actually
it.
like that.
We
But
did,
he screws up a line, and to this day, I don't know if it's Mr. Lonely
Hey
Bird.
Joe.
Yeah, he definitely does.
Hey
Yeah.
Joe was a big,
Hey Joe, I hate that one.
big.
Those
But you did it
chords are
anyway?
annoying. You can't play for a harmonica. I get about 2 bars where I can comfortably play a solo, and the rest of it is all like trying to bend enough.
But we used to play that
Yeah.
almost every night
I know.
because we only had like 10 to 15, songs at the time. So
Yeah.
covers were a big part of our
And they'd
repertoire.
make me do guitar solos on an acoustic guitar with a loud band.
Well, you'd make yourself do that.
Oh,
Was it mic'd? I mean, did you actually hear it? Or?
There was some gnarly
feedback.
gigs.
Yeah.
There was all those gigs were, and then we were also in the fight for mutually assured destruction to see who could get louder and
Oh,
louder.
it was an arms race.
And
Everybody
we
had
just would
something
stack
new.
our stuff.
But-
Pretty soon you didn't even need a PA. It would just be bleeding
I like
ears.
to think that, Bobby had a pretty good game, but I like to think that I out-shrilled everyone.
Yeah.
You get a harmonica going, I could shut phones off.
you-
It was kind of neat.
That was Bobby's death in '99. Must have been really. I mean, obviously, it was very tough on you guys.
It was.
I mean, how it was at the time? Did you? I mean, was it a complete shock for you guys?
Well, you know what it kind of was for me, because I was in a lot of trouble too, was that whole summer for me was a scare.
Right, yeah,
It was,
we
so
had
it
been
was
through
like,
a lot.
there was a survival mode, so you didn't feel a lot of it for a while. I mean, I tried to feel it as much as possible, because, you always wonder what'll, I mean, you actually think, I'm lucky I haven't had to lose anybody, then you lose somebody that close to you that suddenly, over something that's been building for a while, you're, in a way you're not surprised, but you're like, I always knew this would happen, and you're so unprepared for it that
Either way,
it
I
is a
mean,
shock.
It is.
you
I
know.
mean, when someone is building up with addiction or substance or alcohol abuse, it is. I mean, regardless, it hits just as hard, regardless.
Something my brother said, and I mean, he loved Bobby like the rest of us, but he said, eventually you're not going to feel this for a while, but he let you guys down.
Yeah.
And, that's the thing, like the assessment to the damage to our career, we kind of discovered years later.
Yeah.
Because we were busy like, all right, what are we going to do now? And you start realizing, wow, there was a whole lot of stuff we were planning to do, wasn't there? Yeah. And you weren't thinking of it that, because your life changes. And so your priorities change. You forget what your original mission was, and you certainly aren't going to go about it the same way. So you start looking at what's important in your life. And like it or not, that shit catches up with you if you don't deal with it. So it is more important, because you can't have anything else without that.
Right.
So you start looking at that as your priority, and then eventually you get around to, oh yeah, what were we trying to do as a career? And luckily we had a steady supply of gigs and people that wanted to see us play, and
We kind
luckily
of had to rework it out. I mean, it takes a while to kind of get a band chemistry going again. So
I think for
there's
us
a lot
it
of
was-
working it out going on for a couple of years.
I mean, it
But
has to be.
I
when
think-
it's
Until
a
just
critical part,
recently,
you know
we're
what I mean?
starting to feel.
But we were
Pretty
playing
comfortable with where we're at.
proficiently by the first year. We were playing proficiently enough. I mean, that's kind of the
Right.
freaky, suppress the pain kind of thing about us. Is like we were a functioning band within the year, and that's insane. That really is insane.
Yeah.
And we were lucky that we were all good enough musicians to do that. But the first album, I loved Bridge. And I think it was great. And some of my favorite songs are on that album, even though it wasn't who we are. It was this process we were going through. But still, all the people in it gave everything they had, and it was a sustainable record. And that's the thing. I think right about now we're sort of enjoying what we're doing again, like us. It's not so much a stretch, and I think it's also the addition of the new management, and the new record.
Yeah.
It's kind of, each record gets you excited. I was really excited about the influence of Jay Bennett on
Yeah.
us. And that is something I really am looking forward to. He's a great example of a producer that has qualities that we lack.
How did you hook up with Jay?
Got him on the internet.
Yeah,
Really?
we were strangely, we were down in Austin, where we go down to Austin all the time
Yeah.
to Woodshed and write songs. And we, at the same point, we're kind of going south with our management. We were going different directions. So we're down in Austin, we're jamming. We realized we want to get a record out soon. So we decided to just go right in to making the album. At this point, we don't have a record deal. We don't have a manager. We didn't like our old record company. They weren't giving us the money.
We fired our manager in this process and part of the problem was we realized, we thought we had like a month to write and then we would start making a record, and then we realized, if you want to get out by the fall, you have 6 weeks to deliver the whole thing.
Yeah.
But
the next move, of course, fire your manager who
Right,
have
exactly.
all the ways to get everybody.
But it was kind of at that point we were on our own, which was kind of cool because we actually made all the decisions, found our own studio, just the five of us.
Brendan found the studio.
And it kind of brought you guys back to that whole moment.
That was the thing.
It was nice.
Never had we had to think so much, in so long. I mean, it'd been a while since in a band you do everything.
And to put you back in touch with kind of that feeling.
And the new guys had to really Ben really had to get off his butt and think, like, what kind of band do I want this to be? And being the keyboard player, that's always been hard for him, but he stepped up and he found a guy he liked, and this guy turned out to be a genius. But see, in the process of all of this, oh shit, everything's hitting us all at once, everybody's focused. We settled down and we just played the game that we got this chance to play, and we paid for the album ourselves, got it done, and in June, we'd made the deadline, we had a new management just in time to negotiate our new record deal, just in time to allow another project I'm doing with DJ Logic to be signed with Relics Records. I get to make a record with these guys.
That's
next
cool.
year.
You're doing with DJ Logic.
But if we'd signed it any earlier, we wouldn't get to have done that. I was already resolved to the Blues Traveler deal is really the thing in my life. It's important. Obviously. And so all of these great things come together right on time. Right. And because we were so unable to trip on whatever we would be tripping on, we completely just played a really good game. We all contributed, we all shared, we were a team. Yeah. And we allowed this guy to affect us in a way that we couldn't be affected ourselves. And we had to trust him. And I'm telling you, he was a genius.
His music moves you. His lyrics captivate you. His stage presence steals the show. Travis Tritt, live and kicking. Tonight at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific on HD Net.
Ripples. Lives are changed.
Did you kill that cop?
Balance is just an illusion. One event, many perspectives.
You get me?
Boomtown, Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. 6 Pacific on HD Net.
Hey, it's Matt Pinfield. Welcome back to Sound Off. I'm here with John and Chen from Blues Traveler. Great to have you guys here. It's
cool talking to you.
And so let's talk about Jay Bennett. We talked about him before, the new album, Bastardos.
I
love that.
Oh, yeah.
I love that title.
I wanted to call the album, a friend of mine and me were talking about calling the album Blues Traveler Those Bastards years ago.
Yeah.
Those bastards. But these guys are a little too straight-laced and uptight for that stuff. But Chan has always been trying to get something in Spanish.
Especially because we were down in Austin, so this whole Spanish thing was kind of floating around.
Viajante Azul, but that doesn't mean blues. It means the Blue Traveler.
Yeah.
Or, you know,
So I thought we were all thinking something Spanish or kind of Austin flavor would be cool.
Yeah.
And once we got Bastardos with the Spanish flair.
and Bastards for me, there's a congressional caucus coming on.
Yeah, exactly.
But and it kind of just fit the whole mood of where we were at, and it means a lot in a lot of different ways. So
It seemed like every decision we made that was kind of fast seemed to be right.
Right. Yeah.
And we weren't just trusting that, like we would go through the process, but there was sort of an instinctual rhythm that kind of everyone was executing. Great example, Ben, our keyboardist. I'm a really good melody guy when I write a song, but I know 5 chords. So like the song Amber Awaits
Right.
is a melody where I used about 4 chords, the ones that I know. And Ben, being a keyboard player, has such more harmonic applications he can use, and he takes my melody and puts it to a completely different chord progression, and the song is better.
Yeah, it becomes a different thing.
Well, I mean, you can do that, and it can be a horrible disaster, or you can fight over, but it was something that I couldn't execute. It was beyond me, and it made my contribution seem so much cooler. And then we'd go back to the chords on the chorus, and it was like you were winding up this slow-moving thing till bam, and the chorus would hit you, and we call ourselves John Bennon because we combined to be a super songwriter.
Yeah, that's great.
Leaning In's another one, and he took this great chord progression that swung harder than mine and made my melody, which is really what I'm good at, swing. And
so it gave it a good different feel.
Plus, at this point, we've used John's 5 chords, 5 to 6
Pretty
chords,
much.
pretty.
if you've heard Run Around, those were them.
Yeah, over all the years, Travelers and Thieves and
Playing a harmonica, I'm lucky to get to 5. Hard, 3
I still think
really.
you do a good job with that harmonica, by the way. I really
I
enjoy
suck
what you
and
do.
I blow.
You're great
Blow
on
and
it.
suck.
That's awesome. Tell me about your brother's in the band now too, which is cool. Let's talk about the new band.
Well,
members.
that was one of the silver linings of Bobby's passing. I always have to thank him for giving me the opportunity to play with my brother. But my brother was in a band called Dowdy Smack
Right.
up in New York, and they were starting to tour, but they broke up. Strangely, they were within months previous to Bob passing away. So we looked at some other bass players, just to be fair, but the position was
try.
really his right from the beginning. That was a pretty obvious solution. And it's nice because he's been with us and come to shows and seen us since the very beginning. So he
Getting
has
to
a
know him
good
was
sense
the
of
easy part.
that whole history.
And he's been there watching from the side as a
And
brother.
he was
for so
really
long.
close with Bobby. As a matter of fact, his bass was a bass Bob had given him. So
Wow, that's incredible.
So
kind of
even when
strange.
Bobby died, in a short period of time, we had 4 guys from Princeton who knew each other since they were kids. So it's not like you had to incorporate that sort of trust thing. I mean, I think it was kind of harder on Ben in that way, because he still has to hear all of our stupid Princeton stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And, but the thing about
and he
Tad
doesn't
is
drink, which
the thing about Tad is that he's very, very different.
drinking helps.
yeah.
The thing about Tad is he's very different from Bobby. He's very accurate and
As a player,
precise.
yeah.
Right.
And the thing is, when he works on something, he needs to rehearse it and go over it, which is exactly the opposite of me. I'm a first take guy, and the more I plan something, the worse I'm going to be. The more I
So you like to
consciously
go with the
affect
gut
it.
feel, the first take.
I
and just
try
go.
and stay away from what I'm doing, because as soon as you consciously affect it, you're going to fuck it up. And so it's kind of like going to sleep, and you learn to just kind of trust your instincts and go. Tad gets there, but he likes to know where he is, and that's his process. Great thing about Jay, and we learned this early on, is that we'll give Tad, actually we did this with Don Gaiman too, you give Tad 8 hours to work on his part, and I come in the last 20 minutes of that 8 hours.
Yeah.
And at the time when we're all ready to go, and you time that out, and it's using that as a strength, has allowed us as a band to do a lot of things we really couldn't have done with Bobby.
Right.
And I love Bobby, the way that he sort of would throb.
Yeah.
And he had a
like
rhythmic approach that I don't think anyone will know how to do.
His groove thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really subtle thing, and Tad was smart when he came in to try with the band. He didn't try to do that at all.
Right.
Because he knew he couldn't.
I mean, yeah, and then our point with
Some of the bass players we auditioned were trying to recreate something, and it's like doing an impression. We didn't want to make a shrine of Blues Traveler pre-Bobby, and like trying to bring back the fabulous '90s. Who wants to do that? You want to
progress.
I mean, and that's
If you don't live it, it won't come out of your
one
heart.
of the things those guys knew coming in, and we were very clear, is that we wanted them to just be their own musicians and not try and be what we were before. And as a result, we get to play. We got a lot of new influences, which I think really revived our spirits on a lot of
Yeah, because
on the
we were
musical
feeling old,
side.
and now there are these 2 hungry guys who, they're actually, Tad's really the youngest, I guess, but Ben's our age, but there's still that approach. They're a little closer to being hungry.
Yeah.
And
Is
they
there
got us
musical influences different than yours? I mean, obviously, with Tad and you growing up near
Well,
each other,
Tad and I had vaguely pretty similar in a lot of ways, but you know, just musicianship when it's in a band format, it's so everyone's so individual on their instrument that you know, no matter what the influences
affect the outcome regardless.
it affects everybody. So, you know, as long as you're playing like yourself, it's gonna stir in the pot. And like I said, it's taken us 4 years to kind of.
I think their
really
minds
figure
are
out.
different, though. Chan's very.
Yeah, I'm much different than Tad.
Chan's very sociable, and so like you know, his guitar sort of reflects that. He stands out. He walks up and says hi. Tad almost will, you know, he'll want to do that, and then he'll get up there and he'll almost retreat a little bit. He has to get pumped, and he's very introspective, I think, compared to Chan. He's a
I yell at the crowd a lot.
Yeah, you got to get it out of Tad. You got to get him going. I think also Tad. This is something that happened to me. I was dysgraphic when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And like my right and left, I was ambidextrous for a while.
Yeah.
And, you know, like there's something symmetrical about that motor function, and I sense that about Tad. Yeah. He has a real good sense of symmetry, and he's a really great singer, but he won't sing.
Well, he's doing his harmonies, but he won't sing a lead.
We want him to do a lead. He sings like Dave Matthews does.
But
mark my words, America, you will never know.
Celebrate this Turkey Day with HDNet's Rockin' Sports Weekend. Thanksgiving Day, check your drumsticks at the door as the LA Kings take on the Nashville Predators in a heated showdown of the NHL on HDNet. Friday, whip up a dish of destruction as fighters try to beat the stuffing out of each other in the HDNet Boxing Knockout Special. Saturday, it's a back-to-back dose of college hoops in the 2005 Wooden Tradition. First, Purdue takes on Xavier. Then Notre Dame battles North Carolina State. Pass the salt and pepper. These games have flavor. Then, don't bite off more than you can chew. Head back onto the ice with a second helping of the NHL on HDNet. The Vancouver Canucks shoot it out with the Phoenix Coyotes. Sunday night's gonna rock your world with an all-new episode of True Music, followed by Sound Off with Matt Pinfield. Later, save room for dessert with the groovy licks of Sunvolt, the Rockin' Sports Weekend. All Thanksgiving weekend long on HDNet.
Welcome back to Sound Off. I'm Matt Pinfield. I'm here with John and Chan from Blues Traveler. Guys, it was so great to have you here today.
Thanks for having us.
Good to see you
pleasure,
guys.
Matt.
We barely scratched the surface. We'll come back and do this again.
You have to come back and do it again. There's so much, I mean, but it was good.
Hopefully it'll be a new record, a new chapter in our life. You know,
Yeah, we'll have to come back on the next record. But
cool.
So you're going to tour for, are you, what's you going to tour for the next 6 or 7
We're
months?
off to the races with the record, promoting the record.
You guys have always been about the live thing, too, which I always
We're
love.
just like you. It's in our blood. You can't stop.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen you since 120 Minutes, Headbangers
And
Ball.
I used to DJ PRB. I
Yeah,
probably listened to you.
That is where,
It's
I
true.
mean, you know,
PRB
and the
shit.
thing is, it's because you love it.
No, absolutely, I do.
So we have to do it because it's what we know how to do, and we love it.
So yeah, we're touring through the end, up until about Thanksgiving.
And then we'll tour some more.
And then next spring we'll be out touring.
That's great.
You know,
And then
working
we'll
out
tour some more.
in the
Yeah.
summer.
Probably make another record, tour some more.
Yeah, that's what it's about, though. It's about being the part of the process. It's what you love to do. It's in
And
you.
making your house payments.
Yeah, which is very important as well.
Crucial.
Guys, it's so great to have you here. It
Cool,
really
Matt.
was.
Thanks.
All right,
Someday
excellent.
I'll get
Take
to
care,
see
John.
my house.
Chan,
man.
good to see you, brother.
Rock it.
Guys, great to
Rock
see you
on.
both.
No problem.
Blues Traveler on Sound Off.